Hello all you wonderful, beautiful, and craptastic people. CraptasticJack here, and today we're going to be talking about Need for Speed Payback. And today is not really going to be talking about Payback in a negative light. We're actually going to be talking about it in a pretty positive one, actually, for once. I mean, it's pretty safe to say that we could chalk up Need for Speed Payback to being a disappointment at the very least. I mean, I could say a lot of bad words about that game. I've said a ton of stuff. A lot worse stuff about Payback than just a disappointment, but at the very least I feel like we can chalk it up to a disappointment. I think the majority of the community finds Payback to be a pretty big disappointment. There are some who really enjoy the game, and I'm not knocking those who do, but I'm just saying most of the community thinks that this game is a disappointment, me included. Now, Payback was not a very good game. There are a lot of bad design decisions in the game that just made the game worse than it should have been. Like, for example, no free roaming police, and the fact that there were car classes to the point where like different cars cannot do different events. Like a drift car cannot do a drag event, like a race car cannot do runner events, runner cars cannot do races. Like, it was a bunch of different car classes, and you could have to buy a car multiple times if you wanted to use it for different types of races, which is not what Need for Speed should do. It adds to the illusion of more content, so that's something that Need for Speed shouldn't do. But going back on topic, add in an understaffed team and a deadline to meet, and you get a game that had a lot of potential, had a lot of good ideas, but a lot of bad ideas as well. And a lot of those good ideas were not flushed out as well as they could have. I mean, that's pretty much 2015 in a nutshell. A game full of great ideas that just were not flushed out in their entirety as much as they should have. So today we're going to be talking about the ideas, whether fleshed out or not, from Need for Speed Payback that made the game, that were pretty good in terms of the gameplay and everything, that Payback was good at. I mean, so yes, without further interruptions, let us begin. Now, let's begin with the police. You all know that I am a huge police chase freak. Police chases are the main reason I play Need for Speed. Now, if you were to subscribe to me about a year ago, you would know just how pissed I was that there were no free roaming police in Need for Speed Payback. To this day, I still am, but Ghost did end up making it so you could do bait crates that go anywhere with them. Yada yada yada. You guys probably already know the story about how Ghost fucked up with the police. No, William Ho. Arbitrary time limits do not make police chases more fun. Now, what Ghost Games got right with police chases in Payback is the aggressiveness of the police. Some of the most fun I've had in Need for Speed Payback is just cruising around with the police in pursuit all over Fortune Valley in the bait crate missions once they actually added the option to go free roam with them. They are aggressive, they are mean, and most importantly, they are a proper challenge. Getting away from them is a proper challenge, the way it should be. Now, this is how I believe police should be in a Need for Speed game. Now, when it comes to the next game, police must be in free roam and they must be challenging, but they also must have a heat level system. But what 2019 should feature and do with police is a different story for a different day. I could type an essay on the police in Need for Speed alone, and I already have several times, but let's just, before we move on to the next topic, just, again, the police, like, you go into a police chase in Payback, and you're, like, even though you are on a sanctioned line, you're pretty much told where to go, and all the police chases, and especially in the story, are all scripted, all the roadblocks are in the same spot and everything. If they took that, just how fun those were, but then made it like free roam and like the roadblocks and everything, the rhinos and everything, but they weren't scripted, they would come at you at random times, that shit would be awesome. So like, they have a great basis for police pursuits in Payback. They just gotta expand it, make it free roam, make it heat levels, make it all that, and they can have some of the best police pursuits in a Need for Speed game since Most Wanted. They might even have the best police pursuits in a game, in a Need for Speed game ever, even beating out Most Wanted. Who knows, but they gotta work on it. Now, going on to Street Leagues. I like the idea of the Street Leagues in Payback. They were an interesting way to introduce several new characters along the way. I just wish the acting was better. But going back on topic, the Street Leagues were an interesting idea. I liked how each Street League had their own paint jobs and their own theme. Like the La Katrina gang being focused on death and the 1% Club being focused on being douchebags. It also brought some diversity when it came to racing others. I mean, the only issues I really had with it were the fact that they weren't, again, fleshed out enough. I don't feel like I got enough time to spend with each, like, gang person people. You only had like 5 races against them, and that really isn't enough to flush them out and see like what they're all about and get a good proper backstory behind them. Now, I really hope they implement the Street League idea into 2019, along with maybe a league that's only focused on running from the cops, or maybe even mixing in a few free agents into the mix as well, people who aren't part of any street leagues. I feel like this idea could work if they tweaked it just a bit more, if you know what I mean. Maybe even include several leagues in each car class, so that way you aren't racing only against one league in a certain car class, like you're only racing against the large Katrina gang when you're in a slower 100 sub 100 level car in Payback, but then you're racing only against the 1% club when you're in a hypercar. Yeah, like make it so there's different leagues for there's multiple leagues for each different level of a car, if you know what I mean. Now moving on to my next point, collectibles. When it comes to collectibles, there are quite a good amount of them scattered around the map, such as the chips. However, I do not believe that much happens when you collect the chips. Here's food for thought. In the next game, collectibles should grant you access to an unicorn car or something like that. Something that shows that you put in the time and effort into achieving something that not many people can get. I liked the billboards, I liked the chips, I liked all that. I like being able to scout around the map and seeing shit to collect. That's good, that's good. Now, another thing I liked about Payback was the little drift and speed zones across the map. Nothing really to say much here aside from they added a good amount of enjoyment to the open world and made it fun to beat my friends' autolog recommendations on not just races, but on roads and corners across the city too. Again, I hope they implement these in 2019's world as well. Now, let's move on to drag races. I liked the whole system of how drag races work in Payback. However, there is a lot of room for improvement here. For example, a lot of the races just don't feel intense enough. They don't give me the same rush as drag races in Need for Speed Underground. I mean, a lot of them just felt like I was driving in a straight line while pressing a button every couple of seconds to shift up. You need to add traffic, add obstacles, make the races neck to neck in the next game, bump up the motion blur so it feels like I'm going 300 miles an hour. But Ghost does have a solid base here for some proper drag racing in the next game, and I hope that they add it and they make it a lot more intense, a lot more add obstacles and everything, add traffic, make it so every second is life or death. That's how it felt, how it was in Most Wanted, Underground 2. That's what it has to feel like in the next Need for Speed game. But they do have a strong base here to build off that, so I feel like that's something they can easily achieve within the next Need for Speed game. Now, my next point here is going to be the roaming racers. I like the idea of being able to race people just roaming around the city, something every open world Need for Speed game should have. In Payback, there was an outrun game mode for when you were racing other roaming racers. However, I think that instead of outrun races being on dedicated routes, they should be open world, where the leader controls where the race goes, similar to the outrun racing in Underground 2. I would also like the option to challenge the roaming racer to a drift, drag, or sprint race as well, similar to the way you could in Need for Speed 2015. But again, Ghost Games has a strong base to build off of here, and I hope they take advantage of that, because they really kind of need to. Add new different challenges and disciplines to roaming racers, maybe even a league, like a blacklist of the top 10 most wanted roaming racers in the city. Add so much content, so many different directions, so there's enough content to go around and never feels like you don't have anything to do. One thing that racing games lack today is replayability. After completing the story, there really isn't much to bring people back into the main game. One way Ghost attempted to combat this was by introducing abandoned cars each week. This has undoubtedly led to people coming back to the game every week to find or look up where the abandoned car is located and add it to their collection. I like the idea of having abandoned cars, but I feel like they should be limited to special event cars or unicorn cars, like the Police Crown Vic, which was available for a week, as well as the boss cars from Payback. I like this idea, I just hope that they flesh it out a bit more. Maybe have a week where the car isn't abandoned, but you have to win the car in a race tournament, or which only lasts for a week or something, or make it so you have to get the car by beating a time trial or something of that nature. Just don't make it so you have to escape the cops to earn it. Change it up a bit for the next game. The last big thing I want to touch on is customization. Need for Speed Payback has the best customization in a Need for Speed game to date. And I'm not chatting shit when I say that either. If you think about it rationally, the game has the most authentic car customization of any Need for Speed game. This is Need for Speed's strong suit. The customization in Payback is amazing. Ghost could literally not add anything to this category in the next game and it would still be alright. But again, why do that? You gotta make changes somehow. The one major improvement they must add to the next game is removing the paywall that locks neons and bags around behind shipments. Hell, remove shipments altogether, please. As long as Ghost adds new body kits, new body parts for cars, removes the dumbass card system for performance customization, then the next Need for Speed will have an even better customization system than Payback. Payback, to say the least, already has a strong customization system aside from the paywalls, but it might as well make it even better for 2019 by removing those paywalls. Nothing in the customization category should be off limits by shipments. You shouldn't have to earn them through shipments, as long as the horns as well. Keep those in the main customization thing. And that's pretty much it for stuff that Payback did right. I'm sure there's a bit more, but it's just my basic rundown of things that Payback did pretty well. What do you guys think Payback did all right? If I've missed anything, be sure to leave it in the comment section below. Tell me what you think Payback did right, what Payback did wrong, etc, etc. But that's gonna be all for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, favorite, subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video. Have a good one, guys.